Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Volunteer Voices, where we get to meet people who have volunteered around the world with Global Care Force. Welcome today. Thanks for joining us. We're going to go ahead and get started. There might be some guests joining us later in the interview, but this will also be recorded for those who want to watch it later. My name is Rick Power. I work with Global Care Force in the area of global programs support. We're glad you're here to join us today for a conversation with Eileen Flynn, who has volunteered multiple times with Global Care Force, and we look forward to hearing from her in just a few moments. Some housekeeping items as we begin. We're recording this call for future use, as I said, and we'll provide you with the link to the recording. And we'll also provide time at the end for Q&A if there are those who have questions. So please hold your questions until the end. And finally, as we've all learned or not learned through these last few years, please mute your microphones to help reduce any background noise. If you're just learning about Global Care Force, we'd like to let you know that who we are and what we do. Global Care Force's purpose is to transform lives through volunteering by connecting our volunteers with organizations serving people in need worldwide. Our volunteers serve with respect to other cultures and faiths. Our goal is to continue to provide primary care teams to areas where healthcare needs remain unmet or access to medical care is unavailable. And Global Care Force is a registered 501c3 nonprofit organizations. We serve in various locations around the world: Egypt, Jordan, Ukraine, Gallup, New Mexico, Rosarito and Tijuana, Mexico, and San Francisco. So our guest today, as I said, is Eileen Flynn. And Eileen is a specialist in counseling victims of trauma. And I think it's safe to say, Eileen, that everyone who comes to see Global Care Force doctors, if they've been near conflict zones, no matter what their physical wounds might be, they all bear emotional wounds, and they're dealing with the shock and trauma of being in a nation that is at war. So thank you so much for your service, and thanks for being with us today. What made you decide to volunteer with Global Care Force?
So I was wanting to volunteer in the Ukraine, and I was working in Moldova with victims of spousal abuse, and they opened their doors for the refugees coming in from Ukraine, and most were women and children. So I was working with the counselors there, working with some of the patients, and two of the counselors were actually from Ukraine. So I wanted to be more hands-on with them. And one of my fellow volunteers in Moldova is actually found Global Care Force and told me about them. So now she and I have both been on multiple trips.
Mm-hmm. And did you ask to be deployed to Ukraine, or were you open to any location? Why were you interested in Ukraine?
Because of the people that I saw in Moldova, they were obviously traumatized, but they were so appreciative of everything that anybody did for them. And there is a little bit of Ukrainian in my background, so it's kind of nice. It's nice to give back to you.
Sure.
Where you're genetically from, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. And we're always honored when people sign up to volunteer with Global Care Force, and even more so when they come back again and again, which you have done. Can you share a story about someone you met or something that happened during your volunteer experience that was kind of transformative or life-changing for you?
So, the first time I joined, I wasn't sure what to expect, and my translator Maria is now a fully fledged MD and a psychologist, and she was fantastic. And just in speaking with her and the work that she does with the soldiers there, And then the work that we were doing just in the first deployment, it really affected me. The people that we were seeing, my first deployment was in partly in Kyiv and partly in Kharkiv, and the people we were seeing were largely battered women. And that hit home a lot because of previous work that I've done. And then the next two deployments were to a different section, and it was less domestic abuse than just war trauma. And each time I went, you meet different people, and you see different traumas. And there's people in every deployment that I've met that will probably stay with me forever.
Thank you. And the pictures that are being shown on the screen here, a bomb shelter and a building that has obviously been hit by bullet holes. Anything you can tell us about these photos?
Yeah, so the first one showing the building with the bullet holes, that was a community center during the first deployment, and it was really cold. Again, that there were signs of fighting everywhere. Just around the corner were 4 buildings that were completely demolished that we were basically using as our toilets because there was no power, there was no water. Everything had been knocked out. And again, the people had been lined up for at least an hour before we got there, waiting for the help that we were giving them. And in this particular area, a lot of them were worried about radioactive exposure because they were near enough to Pripyat to worry about the soldiers and the tanks going over they're near to Chernobyl. So we had with us, we had thyroid scans that they were doing on all the patients to make sure that they were safe. So we had special equipment just for that with us, and everybody wanted a scan. So it was that was a very interesting sight. And then the bunkers, that was a newly built bomb shelter right across from a medical facility that was completely gone.
Mm. For those who might be considering volunteering with Global Care Force, what can you tell them about your schedule? Is there such a thing as a typical day, and what would that look like?
Yeah, so you wake up in the morning and you go get breakfast, and then usually you drive about an hour to the first clinic. Sometimes you stay at that one clinic the entire time, and sometimes the day is split into 2 separate clinics. But the minute you get there, everybody jumps out of the van and starts unloading the pharmacy boxes and starts setting up, and then we pretty much start seeing patients immediately. We'll grab lunch, and then if we're still in the same building, we're already set up. But otherwise, we unpack everything, load it in the truck, and then do it all over again at the next site. And you get into a rhythm.
Mm-hmm. And are the people in this picture your team members that you worked with?
Yeah, so Maria is hugging one of the patients, and I hugged her after that. She was a very sweet lady that had her share of trauma and really just wanted to talk to us about. She was worried about all of her family members that were on the front lines. Mm-hmm. And she just, in a lot of times, especially in the small rural towns, it's a very small town feel where everybody knows what everybody's up to. And they don't want to talk to each other about what they've been through because they don't want gossip. Mm-hmm. So we kind of serve as that person that they can talk to freely about what they're worried about, what they're feeling, just all of their emotions. So she was really happy to just kind of let it all out and have somebody to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other picture, yeah, this is my first deployment. And in fact, my last one, the third one, Bob, who's on the far left, he was on my third deployment. So he's a familiar face.
Mm-hmm. Well, we know that the teams include the volunteers from outside Ukraine in this case, but also several Ukrainians who work with you as translators, drivers, support staff, Ukrainian physicians.
Mm-hmm.
And could you talk a little bit about the bond that forms with your team members over the course of a couple of weeks together?
Yeah, it's amazing how fast you can form a family. They're an amazing group of people. Sorry if I get choked up. I've never met such a dedicated, intelligent, compassionate group of people in my life. They're just amazing. And whether they're the drivers or the physicians, they're just amazing people. And you spend 24 hours a day, basically. Unless there's a really bad bombing run and everybody's in the bomb shelter, but except for sleeping, you're with everybody and each other 24/7. And you're in the van for an hour or two at a time, and you just get to know each other really well. And I think because it's such an intense situation, and everybody's there for the same reason. So I've never come across ego or kind of diva-ness. Everybody's down to earth. Everybody just wants to do the same thing, which is help. So everybody's in the same mindset, and you just form friendships so quickly with everybody. And I've also volunteered with Justin twice, and we still keep in touch. And and I still keep in touch with the Ukrainian volunteers, because the physicians and everybody, because they're just amazing people.
Mm-hmm.
And I even though we were in a war zone, I never felt, and it sounds weird, but I've never felt in danger, because I know that they had our back and they were going to take care of us every step of the way. And they did. It was like clockwork. We knew exactly what we were doing at every time. And we felt very taken care of.
Good. Good. I've heard you say, Eileen, that this experience of volunteering in Ukraine has actually changed the course of your career and future involvement. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So in doing what I've been doing, my career right now is in biotech. And even though I do some counseling on the side, I've actually decided to go back and get a master's in clinical psychology so I can do this on a more formal level. And I was kind of, honestly, I didn't want to I wasn't planning on doing that, but after being there now these 3 times, that's now my new passion. And it's something that now I want to do, going forward. So, yeah, I was telling you earlier how I've gotten, texts from the Ukrainian team that how much we've affected them, but they've also affected us.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like a cross infusion of enthusiasm, and yeah, we've both affected each other for the positive.
Yes. Beautiful. I interviewed one prospective volunteer who asked if Global Care Force did medical tourism, and I was very happy to tell him that that is not what we do, and that we are, meeting the needs of people who wouldn't be served otherwise. And your story is a great example of that. How not only have you served them, but they've served you, and even motivated you to make career decisions that will enable you to serve even better.
Yeah,
so what advice?
I'm very honored to have been part of Global Care Force, because it's an amazing organization. I tell everybody about it.
Good, thank you. So what advice would you give to someone interested in volunteering with Global Care Force?
Go. Don't even hesitate. I'm trying to find a time to do my 4th deployment. My friend Leanna is doing her it will be on her fourth in a couple of weeks. I don't know of many people who I volunteered with who aren't going back. And that says a lot about the people. It says a lot about the mission. It says a lot about Global Care Force as a group, that you have so many, not just one or two, but like 4 or 5 and, repeat. So that it says a lot about all of that. And even if you're hesitant, I'd say go, because it's an amazing experience. It really can be a life-changing experience.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And really the process for volunteering is pretty simple. You need to complete the online application, and you can see information on the screen here that will show you where to go and what to do to find those applications. And then we'll set up an interview with you, and there's a QR code on the screen that will take you to the registration form. If you're a qualified candidate, you'll be asked to submit the required forms, and we'll begin a screening and credentialing process. So if you or someone you know is interested, or if you have further questions, please reach out to us directly or visit our website. We encourage you to follow us on social media. We hope we've left you with a better understanding of what Global Care Force is and answered your questions about our volunteer opportunities and experience. And Eileen is an impressive volunteer, but she's one of many. We have such good people who have volunteered with Global Care Force, and we're just honored that we can be a part of worthy projects like this. So as I mentioned, we'll follow up with an email to provide a link to this recording, a link to the volunteer application, and a volunteer contact email for your information. Share the word with your friends, and join us next time when we have an interview for Volunteer Voices. Thanks for joining us today. Bye-bye.
Thank you.